Hello everyone, today I am going to show you how to set up the Redux in any React project, and if you understand the core concept of Redux, you can easily implement it in other frameworks such as Vue or React Native or others. Okay, so I have created this project, React project, using npx create react app, and it's the basic template that we get out of React. And in this, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a register form, and there will be a home component and another one will is a profile component. What we are going to do is that we are going to enter the details in the form, and once we enter the detail in the form, we are going to see whether that data is coming in the home page or that data is coming inside the profile page or not from the store. Okay, so first go to this app and let's get rid of all this thing that we have and convert it into a functional component. And after that, just get rid of all these things. And here, what we are going to do to implement Redux, we basically need uh, three things we have to install. One is the Redux, React Redux, and the Redux Thunk. Okay, so what I am doing here, I'm installing the packages that is required to set up the Redux. So npm install Redux, React Redux, and third one is the Redux Thunk. I will come back once it is installed. Okay, now it's successfully installed. Uh, it's here you can see that React Redux is there, Redux is there, and Redux Thunk is there. To implement, just need to follow 2 to 3 steps. First, you create that store, then implement those reducers and the actions, and then we are going to combine all that reducers into a common reducer that it will be that we can call it as a root reducer. So let's start. So inside src, I'm going to create a folder with the name store. In that store, I'm going to create two more folder with the name, one as an actions and another one as reducers. Inside action inside action, we are going to create one action and one reducer. Suppose for authentication, we are just creating one reducer and one action for authentication part only. So here I am creating one file with the name as auth action and one file in the reducer with the name auth reducer. All right, now in the app.js, we are going to import all those packages that we have installed, Redux, React Redux, and Redux Thunk. Okay, so import something from Redux, and I will copy this and paste this one 3 times. And from Redux, we need to import three things. First one is the create store. Second one is the combine reducer, and the third one is apply middleware. Okay, these three things we have to import from Redux. And second, from React Redux, we need to import the provider. I'm going to tell you what the provider will do. From this React Redux, you have to import this provider. And third one is the Redux Thunk. And in the Redux Thunk, there is a default export. So we are going to import that default export with the name Redux Thunk. All right. So after importing all these three, what we are going to do, we are just going to, what I told that there can be a multiple reducer multiple actions. Now here we are having only one action as the name, auth action. In a big project there can be profile, setting the goal, and many others actions. So what we are going to do, we are going to combine all those reducers into a single reducer, and we are going to call it as a root reducer. So see, we are going to create a root reducer with the help of combined reducer. This combined reducer we have imported from Redux, and with that we are going to create a root reducer, and in that we are going to pass an object, and in that object we need to specify that what reducer will be accessed with which name. So here auth, I want auth reducer to be what you call to be used in other component as an auth. So to use that one, I need to import that auth reducer, import star, that is import everything. Currently it's empty. Now we are going to write those codes in the reducer. First we are importing it, so import everything as auth, or we can just import the auth reducer, not everything, because there will be only one default export in the reducer. Just we are going to import it with the default export auth reducer, import auth reducer from, we are going what you call, inside a level, that store, inside that store there is an action and reducer. Inside that reducer we are going to import this auth reducer. Okay, and this auth reducer, I want it to export to all the component with the name as auth. You can give it anything, you can name it as auth reducer only, it's up to you. And this one I'm going to map it with auth reducer. All right, now this auth reducer, we can access it in any component that we are going to wrap it over here, and that by the name as auth. All right, now we have created the root reducer. After that we are going to create the store. Const store is equals to create store. In that create store you can see what all parameter we need. We need the reducer and we need the enhancer. So in the reducer we are going to pass this root reducer, and in the enhancer we are going to apply this middleware, and we are going to pass in the middleware redux thunk. What it's basically going to do is that whenever we will dispatch any action, that I will show you later, in that redux thunk will be in the middle of that, and it will come in the middle, and this is going to help us in dispatching the action. Okay, so we are going to apply the middleware, and in that middleware we are going to pass the redux thunk. All right, now we have completed the store setting, we have completed the creation of a root reducer, and now we have imported this provider, and everything that will be there in our application, we are going to wrap it inside that provider. So what we are going to do, the root will be a provider, the root parent will be provider, and everything, the child will come inside it, all the components. So I will wrap everything inside the provider, and I'm going to pass this store in this provider. Now what will happen is that these store data will be accessible from anywhere, from any component that is wrapped in between this provider. All right, so just before going to this, I'm just creating 3 to 4 screens. One screen for the home page, one for the creation of registration page, another one will be what you call the profile page. Just I'm going here inside the src, creating one folder with the name component. components. In that component, I'm going to create three component. One is the home.js, another one is the register, and third one will be the profile.js. In the home.js, I'm going to create a functional component with the help of a shortcut, a React arrow function component export. And here, uh, just for now, I'm going to display one message. I'm in home. All right, I'm going to save it, and same thing I'm going to copy and paste in the profile and rename it with profile. Oh, sorry, register. All right, then save it inside the profile. Same thing, just rename it. All right, now we have saved this one. This is done. Now, what we are going to do, now we are going to implement those actions and the reducer. So what will happen is that in the register page, there will be a form. In that form, user will enter some detail, and that detail will be stored in the central storage, that is the store. And that store we are going to provide to all the component, and all the component will retrieve the data from the store, the central store that we have created. Okay, so now we'll go to this store part, and in this store part, we are going to write the reducer. So I told you in the reducer, we have a default export, and in that default export, we are going to create this auth reducer. Okay, so in the initial state, const initial state, what I will do is that suppose when a user clicks on that register page, I will catch all those data, name, email, password, and the address into a single object, and I will name it as user. Okay, I have initialized it as an empty object. So I'm exporting it in this reducer part. You have to, in any reducer that we create, you will export it as a default, or you can create a multiple one with a named export, but I'm creating over here as a default export default. In this export default, in this reducers, any reducer that you will be creating, there you are going to get two parameter. First parameter is the state, and the second parameter is the action. In any reducer that you are going to create, you will get two parameter. One is the state and one is the action. So in the state, in the first time, what will happen is that we are going to initialize this state with the initial state, and after that Redux will manage itself, and every time the previous state will be passed, and the previous state will be passed, and we are going to do the changes in the previous state based on the data we will get at that time. Okay, and here I missed that arrow key, and inside this, for now I'm just returning the state. After this, I will write the logic. So just save it. Now coming back to the action, uh, just get rid of this. So in this, what will happen is that in the currently there is no text fields inside this register part. We are going to have that one. What we can do, just create a form over here. Inside this, I will be having a p tag. Just this is a basic form. I'm not going on the designing part. Just it will be a basic one. I'm just going to show you the logic. So in the level, it is a name, and here will be an input field. Input as text, and I'm just going to copy this for name, email, and 2 to 3 others field. Okay, so this is a name, email, phone, password, address. All right, and then what we are going to do, we are just here will be a button, input as button, and on clicking on that submit button, this will be a submit. After clicking on this submit button, all those detail in this field will be stored, all this data will be stored in the central storage, that is the Redux. And after that, I'm going to show you how to extract those data in the child component that we have wrapped in the, that we are going to wrap it in the app.js file. Okay, now save it. Now go back to app.js. In app.js, uh, here there is no routing mechanism, so we are just going to install those routing mechanism package. So npm install react router. Once this package is installed, I will come back. Now that package is installed. Now we can verify it from here. uh, react router DOM. Okay, so in this, now we can implement the routing mechanism. So import something from react router DOM, and that something is browser router, and I'm naming it as a router switch, and one more thing is the route. We need the browser router, another is a router, and sorry, the browser router switch and the route. And now we are going to implement these routing mechanism. So inside this, to implement it, first will be the browser router, and we have named this as router, so we'll use router and we will wrap everything inside this router. And after that will be the switch. Inside that switch will be the route, and I will just copy this and paste this one 3 times because we are having only 3 screens. First one is a home, register, profile. Okay, so here what we are going to do, here we are, for the path I want it to be the default one. After the slash means the default path, and I want, and the path and the component I want to component here I want to show is that first one is a register. See, it will take an auto import when I click this one, register, uh, here register, and we are going to show this component register. The same thing I'm copying over here, and I want this one slash home, and I want the home component to be mounted over there, home, and in this one is with the profile, and I want the profile to be mounted. All right, now we are done with this routing mechanism. Once I save it, field profile is not defined, profile is not defined. Okay, it's not imported. Again, we will rename it profile from the profile. Okay, now it's imported. Now I'm going to save it. Now, yeah, now we are able to see this. Okay, I'm having some error. Now we can see this form, and in this form now we are going to implement those logic. then how we are going to capture this data, and how we are going to send those data to the store. All right, so in this we are done with this app.js. Now we are going to implement this thing in action part and also the register part. Now first come to the register. In this we have to just use the state. With use state, what I am going to do, I am going to capture all the details on whatever the thing will change on change handler. We are going to handle the changes, and we are going to store those changes uh, in the state that we are going to create. Use state and const. You can also do with only one reducer. With reducer, you can merge all those details into a single reducer, and then also you can use this. Here I am doing with state. Okay, so in the name val, and I am going to set it with name, set name, use state, and by default it will be an empty string. Just I'm going to copy this and paste this for name, for email. Here will be set email, phone val, set phone val, and what other field is there? uh, Phone we are done. Password, set password, or use it password val, set password, and the last one is the address, and set address. All right, now you have managed the state, and after that what we are going to do, on change handler we are going to handle the changes, and here the value will be, now we have to implement two-way binding. I'm going to show you how to implement two-way binding, and the value will be name val, name val. Okay, now if I'm saving it, if I click over here and I will try to write anything, I cannot write it because I have not implemented the two-way binding. To implement the two-way binding, we have to implement the logic. What will happen on change? On change, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get an object. In that object, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this set name with the current value that is typed over here. Set name, and I'm going to pass e dot target dot value. From this we are going to get the current value that is present in this input text field. All right, so now if you save it, now you'll see we are able to type. Okay, and to verify it that we are getting the new updated value, just below this I will be adding one p tag, and in this we can see the name val. All right, if we'll save it, now we'll write it anything, it's coming beneath this. All right, that means that we have successfully implemented this one. Same thing we are going to copy for the next other fields too. Inside the email, we are going to get rid of this, just paste it. Same with this. This, and now we are going to change the parameters. Here will be email val, here will be set email, here will be phone val, and here will be set phone, password val, set password, address val. Oh, we missed over here val. Okay, address val, and we are going to use this address val and set address. All right, now what we are going to do, on click of this button, we are going to dispatch all this data from here to the store. So we can implement the logic of on click on this. On click, we are going to map it submit handler. All right, and here I'm going to write a submit handler, and in that submit handler, just in that submit handler, we are going to check whether any data is blank or not. Name val, whether triple equals to whether this is empty, or email val, whether this is empty, or phone val, whether this is empty, and like this way for all the fields that we have. Okay, inside that, if any of the fields is empty, what we are going to do, we are just going to alert all fields are required, and what we are going to do, we are just going to return from this function. All right, and in this one, and if everything is successful, everything is there, just we are going to create an object and we are going to dispatch this. So now to dispatch any action, we have to use dispatch, and we have to import it from React Redux. So import something from React Redux, and that something is use dispatch. All right, and inside this component, we are going to initialize this use dispatch. If you call this one, it will do it for you, and in this there will be no parameter. All right, and now what we are going to do, if everything is successful, I'm just going to create one object. In that object, I'm going to place all these value as an object. So const user data is equals to, I'm creating an object as the I need I'm mapping this email val in email, and similarly name name val, and like that way for phone. What is left, password, and address. Okay, now we have created this object. Now we are going to dispatch this. To dispatch this, now what we are going to do, we are going to create that action. This action is now empty. In that action, what will happen, whenever we will trigger the submit button, it's going to dispatch, this dispatch function is going to dispatch to any of the not any of the, whatever reducer, whatever the action that we are mapping to it, it will dispatch those data to, suppose here we have auth action, it will dispatch the data to auth action, and from auth action it will dispatch to our reducer, and in the reducer, the work of the reducer is to save the data that we are getting into the previous state. All right, to modify the previous state with the current data that we are getting. That this is the workflow. So so in the action, suppose we are creating it, this is an registration. So for the registration part, I'm creating a constant, and I will be exporting it. Export const suppose register, and inside this will be register also. All right, and now what I'm going to do, I'm create a function. In that function I will be creating one function for creating registering an account. So export const register user. In this I'm going to get an object, and I can destructure it, or you can directly use data. You can directly get that data object. I'm just destructuring it, and in this I will be getting email, I'll be getting name, I'll be getting phone, I'll be getting email, name, phone. You are getting password and address. All right, so inside this, I told you that whenever you dispatch an action, there Redux thunk that we have imported here, no, there is no use of Redux thunk, but when you will dispatch the action where you need the stored data, and you also need to dispatch asynchronously, we have to return the promise, the Redux thunk will be very handy. So I'm just showing it with Redux how that it will dispatched by Redux thunk. So here we have to return that dispatch. This dispatch will be provided by the Redux thunk that we have imported. This is the syntax that you have to learn. Uh, After that, you have to return this whole Redux thunk. Uh, this will be provided by the Redux thunk, and we are going to dispatch using that Redux thunk. All right, inside this, we are going to dispatch it, and in that dispatch, we are going to create an object. In that object, there will be a field with the name type, and another will be a payload part. So basically what we are doing, see, in this type we will be mentioning that which reducer it has to target. I already told you, once we click on submit, it will send the data to whichever action we are going to send. Suppose we are targeting it to register user, the data from here will come to this part, and from this it doesn't know where to dispatch. So we are specifying it a type, and it will match all the reducer. Currently we have only one reducer, and it's going to match to all the reducer that is present over here with that type field. Okay, so here I'm going to use this type as register. Okay, this register, and in the payload I'm going to pass the same data that we are going to get from the register component. All right, see, now we can save this one. In this, what you call, suppose here if you need a data to be sent to your server, where you need to register the user, so here you can use the async, and like this way, async, and here you can use await, and you can use the fetch API or anything you like, Axios or fetch, and here will those things, and once the data is responded from the server, then only it is going to dispatch it. Okay, now I'm doing only locally, so I don't need this thing, and inside this we are done with this action part. We are done with reducer, we are done with action. We are not done with our reducer. There will be some modification, but we are done with the action part. Okay, and in this what we are going to do is that in this register page, uh, just we are going to import this auth action. So we are dispatching this object with the help of, I told you we can only dispatch from any uh, what you call a component with the help of this use dispatch, and in this action Redux thunk will take care of it. So after this creation of this object, I will use the dispatch function to dispatch, and in this one I need to specify where I need to dispatch. So I'm going to dispatch it to the auth action. In that auth action, I'm going to specify auth action. Here I need to import it, so I'm importing it. Import everything as so it's a named, you can do it like that way. Okay, just import everything as auth action from. We are going to go to the store. Inside that store we are going to the actions, and inside that action we are going to go to auth action. All right, and that is done. And what we are going to do next is that we are going to dispatch this user data to this auth action. Okay, so dispatch auth action dot, inside that there is a register function. I want to target this to dispatch, and in that I need an object, and I can directly pass the user data. Okay, now this is done. Now this part is complete, and here the data will go to auth action, and it will trigger to all the reducer that is present over here, and we are going to now just filter this type of what the type is coming, and accordingly we can do our task. So in this one I can filter it using the switch case, switch, and in this switch I'm going to tag this action, because in the action only we are going to get the type, and I'm going to match whether what type of data from where it is coming. Okay, so here it will be action dot type, and inside this I'm going to write a case for register, and it's inside this auth action. I have created one export constant, this register, and we're going to import it over here. And for that case, if this is the case, we are going to do this set of action. Okay, so if we are getting a register, that means if we are getting this case, that means we will getting the data for the users, for a particular user with email, name, password, and those all filled. So what we can do, we can append those data to the initial state that already we had as an empty object. So here what we can do, here we can return the spread operator state. What it will do, it will copy all those data that is present over here state. Here currently we have only one data. Suppose we had this logged in, and here suppose it is false. So if we will do like this, here it will copy all those data, both the data over here, and next what we are going to do, we are going to override this part with the new data that we have got in the action part. So what we are going to do, uh, here here the user will be overridden with action dot payload. This payload, we are getting this object. In that object we have all the fields, so here also I'll get that object, and that object will be mapped to this user part. So currently we have only one data inside that state, so we can get rid of this. And suppose if you have multiple of data, so then you need to spread it first, then you need to override it. All right, just yeah, it's done. And if this is not the case, then you have to write the default case, default return the state, return whatever it was in the previous state. For the first time it will be initialized with this, and from the next time it will hold the previous state of the store. All right, now we are going to save this. Now coming back to this auth action, this is done. profile. And now what we are going to do, once we click on submit, uh, I want this to be redirected to the home page, and in that home page I want to see whether I'm able to extract those data or not. So here I'm writing props, and after this, once the data is inserted, and we are going to use this history to navigate. So we are going to import one what you call something from, import something from a React router dot, and we are going to import this use history so that we can navigate. And same like this way, we are going to initialize it, const history is equals to use history. Okay, and now what we are going to do, uh, here we are going to props sorry uh, history dot push, and we are going to push it to the home page. All right, once we are getting the data from the server, we are going to push it to the home page. All right, so now the next task will be, after saving this one in the home page, we are going to extract the data. Now I'm going to show you how to extract the data that is present in the store. To export the data in any component that is wrapped in the inside the provider, we can use selector from React Redux. So I'm just going to import from React Redux, and that something will be use selector. And if you write over here use selector and you will select the second one, you will get the syntax of it, const state. In this we are going to get the state, any state that is present in this. I have shown over you, I have shown that in the app.js, that all the reducers contains its initial states, and in that initial state I have named it as an auth. So we can get a slice of this auth, and this auth is pointing to the auth reducer, and this auth reducer is having one field with a user object. So inside this one, inside the home, what we can do, we can get the all the states that is present in the root reducer. Inside that all the state, we can slice it with the auth part. Inside the auth part we have the user part, so we are getting the user data that is stored in the Redux store. Okay, and now what we are going to do here, we are going to name is that user data. All right, now we are going to see whether once we are submitting the form, we are getting that user data in the home page or not. So just I'm creating p tag, and inside that one I need username, user.name, and I'm going to copy this and just repeat this 4 times. So here will be email, here will be phone, here will be what you call address, and only this much. If you want, just get rid of this. Now we are going to see whether we are going to get this data or not. This here telling user is undefined. Yeah, just rename it to user, just save it. Now it's done. So now once we click these all parameter, we are going to check if this everything is done. If everything condition is fulfilled, we are going to come over here, and here we are creating an object, and this object we are going to dispatch, and this dispatch is done with the React Redux, and this is going to dispatch it to this auth action. In this auth action, we are targeting to register user. In this register user, there is a Redux thunk, and this Redux thunk will now dispatch the this thing data to all the reducers. And in every reducer there will be a case, and it's if this is the case, it will match to every reducer. And if it's get a match, suppose we are getting a match over your register, it will perform this action, and in this action we are going to get we are going to get this new updated user. And suppose in the other reducers that we might have in our project, when it's a big one, so if other reducers we have, so if it doesn't get a match, it will return the previous state and there will be no change in the data of that reducer. All right, so now just we are going to submit the form, and now let's see whether we are getting the this data, that from the store we are getting the data from in the home or not. So I'm just typing name, email, xyz at the rate gmail.com, phone something, password something, address xyz, colony. Done. And now I'm clicking on submit, and I'm not redirected. It's showing over here, it's home, but I'm not redirected. So what is the issue? So now come back to the app.js. In the app.js, we have not done here exact, so it will not redirect it. All the time it will target this only. So we need the exact keyword. Just save it. No data is there. Just go back. Just again you submit it. Password, anything, address, anything. Now click on submit. See, we are getting the data in this home page. When I clicked it, we were in this part. When we click this data went to this action part, and this action sent those data to that what you call the reducer, and in that reducer our data, all those data were stored over here. And now what we did, when in the home page we extracted that data from the store, and now we are able to use those data. So suppose will be a button. I'm creating a button over here, and there, suppose there is a profile. uh, if there's I'm using here props, we can use that prop, and in that prop I'm going to use a input button. In that input button will be go to profile. All right, and on click I will trigger an event, and in this one what I'm going to do, on click I'm going to return a promise, and in that one I'm going to do props dot history dot push, and I'm going to go to the profile page. Okay, and I'm hitting this, and suppose in the profile page I'm implementing the same logic that we have done in this what you call the home page. I'm going to get this in the profile page. I'm going to extract user data in the profile page also, and for that I need to import use selector. So paste this one also, and in this div I just suppose I need the name, so I can verify that I'm getting the data or not. So I can write user dot name and just save it. All right, so once I click on go to profile, I'm going to the profile page and I'm getting the name. So this verifies that whatever the data we have stored in that store, we are easily able to access it from any component with the help of use selector. To get all those things, we have to wrap everything inside this one, what you call the provider, and whatever thing is wrapped inside the provider, we can get the stored data, whatever is stored in that data from any component with the help of use selector. So that's it. I think I was able to clear the Redux concept. And this is very easy. You try it once yourself, and once you are done, you will see that it's very easy to implement. Thank you. Have a nice day.